And roadside inspections mainly focuses on three separate but yet most important parts. There are the driver, which is you, the professional driver or operator, the vehicle, which is the vehicle that you're operating, and then the required documentation, the documentation that is needed for you to drive your commercial motor vehicle, that's needed to do your transport, wherever you are hauling cargo, or the paperwork documentation needed when you're hauling or when you're transporting passengers, such as an itinerary, as an example. Now, if you are chosen for inspection, the inspector will greet you and explain the type of inspection they will intend on completing. Now, specifically the driver, go deeper into it. So the inspector will request a current driver's license and will verify your hours of record and other documents. They will also review your vehicle's periodic annual inspection documentation, as well as other paperwork that is related to your trip, because they want to know the vehicle that you're operating, is you're legal, are you in compliance with all the rules and regulations, you are authorized to have the documents needed to do your trip, whether you're hauling cargo or you're transporting passengers. They want to make sure that you are what you say you are as well, and you are able to officially operate and drive the commercial motor vehicle. Specifically, continue to follow the inspector's directions throughout the process and always stay calm. Always. A driver can be placed out of service for any of the following violations. So you can be placed out of service for the violations of if you're operating over the hours, if you're keeping a false record of your duty status, if you're having the incorrect type of record of duty status, and if you're operating without a record of duty status. That's how a driver itself could be placed out of service. Now, other violations that can place a driver out of service would be if you're driving while you're sick, ill, or fatigued, if you're driving with an invalid, so meaning if you're driving without a valid license, or you're driving without a license, if you're driving under influence of alcohol or drugs, if you're not being medically qualified to drive the vehicle, if you're having a wrong class of CDL, or you're not having the right type of CDL endorsements for your CDL, and if you have a restriction that applies to the vehicle that you are operating. Now, for the vehicle, the inspector will check your vehicle for anything that could cause a crash. So it could be medical problems, mechanical problems, unsafe wear and tear, and etc. Now, your vehicle will be placed out of service, or they will shut your vehicle down if the inspector finds that your vehicle is unsafe or it's in violation of the safety regulations. Now, the main reasons why a vehicle can be placed out of service, it could be frame damage. So if it's cracked, broken, loose frame side rails or frame members. If it's suspension damage, which is cracked brakes to the spring assembly or axle parts. It could be the drive line or drive shaft defects, which is damage to the both ends, universal joint, and the drive shaft tube. The brake defects, if it's absence of missing braking action, audible leaks in the air chamber, and improper adjustment, exhaust system leaks, leaks that allow any fumes to enter into the cab or a sleeper berth. And there are any fuel system defects, leaks of the fuel tanks not properly secured, or its improper securement of the fuel tanks itself, any steering mechanism or steering defects, the steering system defects. Now that could affect the free movement of the steering components. If there's tire damage, not the right tread depth or improper tread depth, cuts, bulges, or any other noticeable leak. If there's wheel, rim, and hub damage, which is an ineffective wheel fasteners, rim cracks, or any lubricant leaking from the actual hub itself. Any light device defects, meaning inoperable damage or missing headlights, tail lights, brake lights, or turn signals. If there's a windshield wiper defect, which is inoperable, missing, or defective parts that will make the wiper ineffective on the driver's side. If there are coupling device defects, such as fifth wheel or kingpin damage, and that's specifically driving a tractor trailer or combination vehicle. If it's cargo securement violations, so cargo that's not properly secured, improper number of tie downs, and the defective tie downs. And if there's a missing or temporary driver's seat. So these are the types of reasons why a vehicle can be put out of service. That's why you have to make note of that. Now, sometimes you may fix a problem during the inspection, but it is still recorded in the report as a violation. Now, major mechanical defects, you will have to get the vehicle serviced for any major mechanical defects before you continue driving. So you will have to get the vehicle serviced before continuing driving if there's mechanical defects, such as electrical systems, brakes, air hoses, and etc. And then you have documents. The inspector will review all of your paperwork after the vehicle inspection. So it will be licenses and medical qualifications. It could be hours of service records, vehicle registration, fuel permitting, and proof of annual inspection. It could be shipment paperwork. And this is documents that's showing where you came from, where you're going, and what you're hauling or carrying. And then tell the officer if you are operating under a short haul exemption. This is important because the officer will ask to see your regular duty status. But if you're hauling under the short haul exemption, you have to tell the officer that you do not have a regular duty status in possession because you fall under a short haul exemption. Now, the thing to remember is the reportable quantity. This means that the information about the hazardous substances that can cause substantial endangerment to public health or the environment. So, meaning the reportable quantity is information letting you know or letting the officer know what type of hazardous materials that you have that could cause some type of danger to the public health or environment. That's a document just stating that so that way they know what type of hazardous materials you're carrying if you're driving a vehicle that carries hazardous materials or substances. Now, note, if you do not meet the short haul exemption requirements, this is important. If you do not meet the short haul exemption requirements, you must have a paper log or an electronic logging device to show to the officer. You must show that to the officer. Now, the officer would then conduct a thorough review of the hour limits and logging requirements for the current day and the previous 7 days. And so this is part of the documents of what the inspector, law enforcement officer, or DOT, that's what they will inspect as it relates to the documents. And then the ELD must be capable of being reviewed by the inspector without the inspector having to enter the vehicle. Now, the officer will verify and make sure if the device is mounted properly, and the enforcement may want to transfer your ELD data, your electronic logging device data. They want to make sure that you're able to transfer that data to their software for auditing. Now, when providing an ELD, electronic logging device, to an officer, the specific items that must be included in an ELD packet on board your CMV would be a user's guide of ELD, data transfer instructions, reporting and record keeping instructions in case of a ELD malfunction, and at least 8 days of blank driver log grids. And this is in case the history needs to be recreated. So you must have these items on board in your commercial motor vehicle. And this is part of being prepared of having all the documents that you need. Hey, BET Trainer here. Listen, if you really had true value out of this video, go ahead and click that like button and share some honest comments about this video, because this is going to help other people as well see the video and get the value information, so that way they can be inspired by what you're doing right now as well. So also, if you want to get the latest updates, go ahead and click the subscribe button, so then you can be able to always be updated on the next instant video that will be put out. So again, go ahead and do that. And this video was sponsored by BET Life Services and CDL for Life.